All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everyone is having a wonderful evening. I have been absolutely incredibly excited for this Elon Musk, Donald Trump team up interview, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be exciting. I predict we're definitely going to have break the internet levels of entertainment happening here tonight. At least that's my hope. I hope you guys agree, and I'm really looking forward to this. So, still working on getting things set up here, but all right. It's saying details not available on the spaces, but that's okay. We're still a few minutes out from it, I believe. Yeah. Hopefully, we don't have any issues this evening. I myself. Did you guys? I don't know if you've been watching. I don't know if you've been watching Trump's X, Twitter, or whatever feed since this whole thing was announced, but he has made several posts. Now, if you guys remember, here we'll throw this up here. There we go. So here's Trump's X/Twitter feed, whatever. This was announced just a few days ago. And the first thing that he said, the last post now prior to this was the whole infamous mugshot photo where he shared with us his arrest, his mugshot, election interference, etc. Then 7 hours ago, are you better off now than you were when I was president? I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but I certainly am not better off today than I was when Donald Trump was president. I looked at the comments. There are the most ridiculous community notes available right there. But, of course, that's how it's been. Constant abuse of community notes. But we're used to that. So then he shared a couple more, and he's had some really, in my opinion, really, really good ads that he has on his account. But I thought that this was going to be a video interview, but apparently it's going to be on Spaces. But that's okay. I guess that actually makes sense now that Elon is kind of trying to push. I think probably everyone's trying to get on it. But I'm gonna keep working on it here. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna make sure this loads up and that we are good to go. It was on and then it wasn't. So, interesting. Okay, so, all right, I just refreshed and let me show you guys what happened. So the Spaces is not on there, but his ad is, and then it dates back. I don't know if he suddenly deleted or if he reposted or what, because as you can see, now we were just on his page and we just saw newer posts. But interestingly enough, the only thing up here is the most recent ad. And then from January 4th, 2021, we have several quotes. We are not acting to thwart the democratic process. We're acting to protect it. Senator Ron Johnson. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go to this and we're going to go to this. It was supposed to be on Trump's. Let's see here. My use of the word conversation is deliberate. This is Elon Musk saying this. This is so that people understand how at Real Donald Trump talks when it's a conversation rather than an interview. Nobody is quite themselves in an interview, so it's hard to understand what they're really like. I agree with that. There are definite differences between how people are, here we go, when they are being interviewed versus when they're just having a conversation with someone. This does not bode well, ladies and gentlemen, but I am not giving up. So I clicked on the spaces and I am presented with a grayed out screen. I am sure that the deluge to be a part of this is probably massive. So we're going to be patient. As many of you may or may not know from listening to some of Elon Musk's spaces in the past, he tends to wax poetic here and there. And sometimes it is a little bit of a process before he actually gets to the meat and potatoes of what he is doing. We're also still just a couple of minutes away. I would like to send a shout out to Donna. Hi, Donna. How are you? I'm glad that you are a fan of the show, and we are happy. Okay, here we go. So we're going to try. Details not available. Yeah. So we are having a couple of. Yeah. The whole break the internet thing. Yeah. As in Wokeness said, this is going to break the internet. And it certainly appears to be, because as it stands right now, none of these spaces links are working, at least for me. And I will tell you, I specifically got the best internet that was possible because I do this show. So, all right. So it says the link is live. Yeah, I'm getting issues. Yep. But Twitter/X has ran multiple tests, and accordingly, I think it's just that massive initial surge. Hopefully, fingers crossed. So one of the things I was hoping to do before we actually got to it was I was going to share with you the pictures and information from when I went to the Salvation Army fundraiser that they had here. And it turned out to be a whole lot more fun than I thought it would be. The whole, they modeled the clothes from the Salvation Army's inventory of, free clothing that they give out. The models, which are just various community members. One of them was Greg Coulter, the city councilman, Michigan City, one of them. And he did a really good job. They all did. All of the individuals that, volunteered to do this did a great job. They had some things on for the silent auction and other auctions. Oh, noes. Details not available. We're still working on it, though. I will not give up on this. We are absolutely getting in on this. So let's try to reload again. Fingers crossed. Come on. Yeah. So yeah. As I said, I'm definitely not giving up. We will be watching this. And I don't know about you guys, but did you see, if you haven't seen it, I would definitely look it up. The Cybertruck that influencer, podcaster, young guy, I think that's Barron Trump's buddy, that he gave to Donald Trump. It was awesome, man. I would drive the heck out of that thing. I mean, absolutely, I would drive the heck out of that. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Looked like we might have had something there pop up for a second. And, even the EU was like talking about how Trump needs to not do this because censorship is good and they don't want free speech. Good for him. Good for Elon, the way that he responded to that. I thought it was hilarious personally. I don't know if you've seen it. I will make sure and show you if we can get this space working. Unfortunately, it seems like breaking the internet is literal rather than figurative at this point. But we will get in. We will make this happen. I can assure you, ladies and gentlemen, it is not my internet. It seems like a lot of people are having this issue, but we will absolutely be a part of this conversation. In the meantime, how are you guys doing tonight? I was actually like super excited about this when I heard. I don't know why I thought they would just like sit down and talk, but like on video versus spaces. But I guess it makes sense. Elon's really trying to push this whole spaces on X thing, which is just, I mean, it's just voice. It's like a conference call, right? But with rules, you know, you got to click the thing to talk, the raise your hand kind of thing. It's not terrible. I don't hate it. The one thing though is so much of our communication is body language, right? So much is just us communicating non-verbally. Still working on it, just so you know. I'm going to reload one more time. What is happening? That's a good, yeah. See, spaces. People are having issues with it. I am hoping. See, this is really weird. This is an unusual. It's definitely breaking X, guys. We are witnessing history. We are watching a massive infrastructure of servers and everything else crumble. Why? So that they can hear everyone's favorite president. Speaking of, I just saw something on DC. What is it? What's the name of the YouTube channel? Anyway, this crazy lady in California had put dog poop, at least I hope it was dog, poop in a bag because she saw her neighbor had a Donald Trump flag out front. So she threw, it was in a bag, plastic bag. She actually threw feces on his porch, on his property, and he caught her doing it and came out to confront her. Now, it turns out that he was a legal immigrant from Italy. And watching her attempt to defend herself, now, to her very small credit, she did admit that she was sorry and she shouldn't have done it and, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it kept going. DC Shorts. That's what I was trying to think of. It kept coming back to, but he divides people and he's the reason and this and that. And the guy's like, Tartuff the Spry said, is it working for you? We are still working on it. It is very, very slow. The entire site is extremely slow. I am getting multiple reports from other people that they are having an issue logging in. I believe it's just the sheer massive influx of people that are all trying to see what Trump has to say. Personally, we are going to still work on this. We will get in at some point. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so I got Twitter to reload. I'm going to show you guys what's going on here. I clicked on the spaces thing up here where it says Donald J. Trump space. I clicked on that, and it just hangs, unfortunately. I think everyone is trying to watch this. I cannot believe. So, oh, guys, did you hear that apparently Waltz is already thinking of dropping out? Like already about to quit. Why? Because of the whole stolen valor thing and his, let's say, incorrect rank claim. He was a different rank. So Angry Cops, I don't know if you guys watch that channel. If you don't, really good channel, especially military focused. He knows what he's talking about, and he broke it down in a way that most of us aren't familiar with like military ranks and whatnot. Just so you guys know, I'll give you another little look. It's still just sitting there. But he broke down why what Waltz did is such a big deal and why it's so egregious. And like I said, I found it very, very interesting, and it made a lot more sense than what the mainstream media is reporting, actually. All of this. So Vincent Kennedy posted, "I can't believe Trump just said that to Elon live." What? You're killing me here, guys. I want to be in. We're going to keep clicking on it. I'm curious as to how many. Let's see. You know what we're going to do? We're going to try something a little unorthodox. We're going to do a double load, kind of go back and forth. Yeah, see, we literally broke the internet. Anyone else having trouble connecting? Yeah. So has it already crashed? There's some very, very upset people. And yeah, Steve, it's still just kind of hanging out here. So we're going to try clicking on this one. Fingers crossed. Come on. This is so crazy, man. We broke the internet, guys. Trump and Elon Musk have successfully brought Twitter/X to its knees. All right. So that doesn't seem to be doing any better. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm entertaining, but let's be honest. You guys are here for DJT. So let's see here. All right. So let's try this. Let's try to go here. Yeah, see, it just brings up this weird purple screen and says spaces, details not available. We have 54,000 comments. Yeah. Yeah, nobody can join. Yeah, this is unfortunate, but at least I will say this, at least I am not the only one having the issue, because I would be extremely embarrassed if it was a local issue, aka me. I mean, all right, you know what? Let's watch an ad while I attempt to get into this. Let's see. Hold on. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna go back. All right, that one's broken. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna drag this over to another monitor so that I can keep trying to log in, and then I'll drag it back. In the meantime,
a brief time. Remember that nothing worth doing is ever easy. You'll have bad moments. You gotta love what you're doing. And if you don't, just do something else. Keep standing up always for your values. Keep loving your country. And one of the most important things, never, ever quit. Never quit.
Yeah.
Then ask yourself, what imprint will you leave in the sands of history? What will future Americans say we did in our brief time right here on Earth? Did we take risks? Did we dare to defy expectations? Did we challenge accepted wisdom and take on established systems? In my short time in Washington, I've seen firsthand how the system is broken. A small group of failed voices who think they know everything and understand everyone want to tell everybody else how to live and what to do and how to think. But you aren't going to let other people tell you what you believe, especially when you know that you're right. I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth. Will be a warrior for our country and for your family. I know that each of you will do what is right, not what is the easy way. And that you will be true to yourself and your country and your beliefs. Remember this, nothing worth doing ever came easy. Following your convictions means you must be willing to face criticism from those who lack courage or the guts or the stamina to take it and to do it. It's called the road less traveled.
I mean, say whatever you want about Donald Trump, but his team creates the most incredible ads, videos, memes out there. I mean, just period, in my opinion. Just the best. I mean, absolute bangers. So we have it looked like it wanted to work and then it didn't. But Simon Atiba, I think that's how you say his name, says, breaking, Trump has broken X. No one's able to get in. So it looks like people are slowly being able to get in. So I will just keep at it. We will do this. I wonder. Let's see if it works. Nope. Nope. Okay. So, in the meantime, if you guys are able to get on, by all means, do that. No, that was Geesey had asked, this is interview. No, that wasn't the interview. That was an ad while I was trying. Yeah, they're hiring for remote jobs. I think I put the wrong thing in. Yeah. No, I just I played one of his campaign ads while we are trying to get into the interview because apparently a lot of people are having a very hard time getting in to the Spaces interview. Okay, we're going to try again. Fingers crossed. I'm going to close everything else. All right, here we go. You ready? You guys want to go on this journey with me? Here we go. 3, 2, 1, boom. Space is not available. Details not available. Yeah. So apparently this is extremely widespread. We have multiple reports that people attempting to jump into the interview are unable to do so. I don't know if there's a massive... What's interesting is Twitter just did allegedly a whole bunch of tests to ensure that this wouldn't happen. And it is still happening. So, yeah, this is unfortunate. It seems as this is going to be just voice, like a phone call type of situation rather than a video. I thought he was going to, sit down and face to face and chat with them and we could watch, because body language is so much, especially with Trump, man. You got to get the whole, how's he do it? Like the finger, right? The pointing finger up, man. It's going to be the greatest spaces ever. I do a terrible, terrible Trump interview. Okay, so all I can do is continue to refresh and hope that we can make this work. So this is interesting. In the meantime, guys, while we're trying to get this to work, judge blocks RFK Jr. from New York ballot, declares he's not a state resident. Note, Kennedy's campaign had argued that he was eligible to run in New York because he maintained a legal residence there, despite spending most of his time in California. It seems that the court disagreed. Here we go. You ready? Ready? It's not looking good. It is not looking good. I will get in, even if I have to sit here and refresh. Why is this? So this is interesting. Oh, that's because I don't know why that's. Apparently, I can't spell. I didn't have my glasses on. Yeah, so this just kind of hangs here. So let's close this one. This makes sense. There appears to be a massive DDoS attack on X, working on shutting it down. Worst case, we will proceed with a smaller number of live listeners and post the conversation later. No. Don't do that. Yeah, X engineer in charge of spaces right now. So I'm going to keep trying because I am nothing if not stubborn. So once I am able to actually get the interview, I will share the link for you guys. But as of right now, none of us are able to actually get in and see this. Apparently, not only is it a massive crowd of people trying to all watch at the same time, but apparently Twitter/X is suffering a DDoS attack. For those of you not familiar with what that is, it's a denial of service attack, and it's the super basic. I'm no computer genius, but super basic. It sends like millions of join requests to where the servers get overwhelmed and they're not able to parse what's real and what isn't. Make sure I spell it right, and we'll try again. Very, very frustrating, but it's not surprising. In the meantime, I am going to click and drag this one over here so that we can actually enjoy some other entertainment while I try to get this working. Let's see here. All right. I'm going to leave that work on the other monitor, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be able to get in. Let's see here. Yeah. I'm here. You Cookie Stealer says should have done it on Twitch. How is 500K breaking X? I know. You should be able to have far more viewers, concurrent viewers, than the numbers that it looks like. It's down to, it says here, plus 198K, and it's crippled. I mean, it doesn't pop up at all. It's simply just hanging, or we'll have like a blue screen that says nothing. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to click one more time on this. Here's what we're looking at right now. This is what happens when you click on the actual spaces. At best, it'll come up and say spaces details not available. At worst, the screen will just hang. I agree that it really, the only thing that explains this, because they've been like trying to get this working and making sure that everything was good for weeks now. This is, I believe, something that has been in the works for a long, long time. And unfortunately, I think there are those out there, whether it be mainstream media. Let's see here. Shrizek says Elon says it's a DDoS, but who knows the truth? And that, you know what? That's accurate as well, because I have no way of knowing if what Elon Musk is saying is true. It could be a DDoS attack. It could be his crappy servers. There's no way to tell. Unfortunately, this is something that they really should have had ironed out before go time, in my opinion. This guys, you had to know this would be huge. Like, they had to know this would be huge. Even if you're not an Elon or a Trump fan, the sheer entertainment value. I mean, you know, for sure, he's going to say some off the wall stuff. I mean, it's Trump, dude. Especially with someone who's not going to shut him down and allow him to say whatever he wants. Oh my goodness, man. Like, let's see here. Make sure I got this right. All right. Okay. So, like I said, in the meantime, I am going to still work on this on the other screen and see if I can get this working. But in the meantime, Elon alleges, let's see here. The Cookie Stealer says, yeah, I'd say he's right. We know how radical everyone on the left is. I mean, the UK threatened him earlier today. Yeah, that reminds me. I wanted to show you guys, if I'm sure you saw it, but if you did not, I will share with you. Okay, so Elon also claims, let's see here. Boom. We tested the system with 8 million concurrent listeners earlier today. I believe that. I have seen spaces with insane amounts of listeners, viewers, etc. Let's see here. I want to get to the Elon. Yeah. Donald Trump is back on X. Woo! Woo! Let's see. Where is it at? There's a stream test. Okay. Where is it? Oh, look. How unsurprising. Venezuela banned private gun ownership. Of course they do. It's always for our own safety. Okay, this is too far back. It was the threat that the EU had sent him. And he said, you know, if I was what do you say? If I was where'd it go? Okay, 17 hours ago. Boring company. Look, see, they're community noting. This is how ridiculous it's gotten on X, by the way, with the community notes. In general, right? In general, I like community notes. I find it to be an overall positive idea. Implementation's a little, even something as simple. I appreciate that, Cookie Stealer. Cookie Stealer made it in. All right. Well, that gives me hope. Hold on. He said, I'm in. I'm going to continue trying because it's all I can do. Because this is very frustrating. So ultimately, I'm going to have a, I'm going to have a replay where we just cover it, apparently, because this is very, very frustrating. Now we're getting the same thing. Space not available. So, taking a look here. Okay, let's go to. Anyway, the EU had sent Elon Musk basically a threatening letter, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that." Telling him he couldn't have this, couldn't interview Trump. But the level of delusion and the level of ridiculousness on the left now, look at this. Entertainment guaranteed, right? Live on Spaces, a conversation with President Donald Trump and Elon Musk, hosted on @RealDonaldTrump. Community notes. People are community noting anything and everything Elon Musk posts. Everything. Dude. This is how silly they've gotten. So apparently the big issue that the left is having is because he called him president. Dude, this is how unhinged these people are. They community note everything. Oh, is that just music in X Spaces right now? Yeah, there's definitely something going on, and that's unfortunate. Because, like I said, I was absolutely sure this would break the internet. And it turns out it did. It did indeed. We're going to keep trying to get in. Worst case scenario, I'm going to find the link that they said. They said they intend on posting a link to the interview, like a full replay. When and if I have that, I will attempt to do a new stream where we just listen to it, because I personally think it's going to be vastly entertaining. Oh, I'm so good. In the meantime, let me see if I can find, because I'm, just so you know, I have another monitor going over here on the side, and we're trying to get that up and running kind of in the background. Let's see here. Okay, so here's an example of how insane things are. The author, this is from Douglas Murray, @DouglasK.Murray, the author of this crappy Guardian piece calling for Elon Musk to be arrested for incitement, wrote a whole novel under a pseudonym, wet dreaming about the assassination of Trump. Dude, this is insane. Brad Torgerson says the people who applauded the blaring sensationalism, agreed, of the death of George Floyd for the sake of riots, arson, and worse are now angry at Elon Musk because he doesn't help the UK government suppress public reporting of violence by immigrants. Charming. Let's see here. Hayward Hank said, I also got in. Just waiting room music right now. Keep trying. I am indeed going to continue trying. So I think the people who have been, let's say, inciting, teasing with, oh, I can't believe he said that. I don't think they're even in. I don't think they're in at all. And, wait a minute. I'm in. Hold on. Let me switch screens. Let me close this one. Just music. Yes. Okay. We are in. Jamming. Okay. Got it. Okay. Is it going to keep doing this? Okay. So we're in, and 650K in the space. All we got is some music, but that's okay. All right, so let's see here. Can we make this like full screen? Why is it? I guess we don't really need it. Like, it's only voice, but we get to see who the potential Kyle. at BTC Kyle. Good for you, Kyle. You're like right after me. Who else we got? Christopher. We got Tony. Okay. So we got a few people hanging out. We were able to get in. Just music is all I hear. Which, okay. I am hoping that we didn't miss it. I mean, I don't think it would be over this soon. There's no way. I'm guessing that. Oh, no, I hear him talk. Or no, he must be playing the music. Which is kind of weird. But, okay. We have 750K other listeners, apparently. So, with the... Where's it at? Yeah, 758,000 people. Okay, so apparently they may have gotten it fixed because it says here, numbers are ramping up dramatically. So we're in. We're in. That's awesome. All right. So get comfortable. Make a sandwich. Grab, what do you think? Grab some Pokemon cards, Magic the Gathering, whatever your... Yeah. I agree. Cookie Stealer says, I think he's waiting to get the numbers up. Yeah, that's what I think too. I think they're trying to fix the issue before they're able to get everyone kind of sorted, right? And see if they can fix this before actually getting into it. I think it's probably a serious issue if it is a DDoS attack and if it is responsible for no one being able to get in. But we're gonna tweet. Wait, what is it called now? Is it called Xing? Used to be called tweeting, right? Is it just Xing now? Is it zizzing? I don't know. Oh, we got something. Okay. Sounds like someone's doing something. No more hold music. So how many of you guys are waiting for the epic tweet that's going to just break everything open? What is it? My fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. People have been sharing that constantly talking about, okay, so we got 846,000 now. We're quickly approaching 1 million. I think we're going to see multiple millions. What do you guys think? Let's see where I'll drag this out of the way here. I'm just curious. I want to check a couple of things, and we're in. Now it's just quiet. So we had the hold music. Oh, Elon left, apparently. So he's probably taking care of some background stuff, I'm going to guess. But the good news is we're in. We are in, which is awesome. Okay. So, yeah, it seems like now it's just quiet, which is kind of ominous, actually. Like, I kind of like the hold music just because I felt like, okay, we're there. We're good. But the quiet's like, And like I said, Elon seems to have dropped out of the listening now, maybe. Okay. All right. So what else do we have? Okay. Well, the good news is we're in. The bad news is it doesn't seem to have started yet because I think they were really trying to get this fixed. So it looks like 895,000 other listeners. So, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. We are now officially part of history. We're on the Spaces interview between Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who was apparently not here. He left. He was here just a minute ago. Like I said, I'm guessing they're running through some cycles. So hopefully this whole thing will get started soon. But I'll say this, if you guys have ever watched like a Trump rally or one of his speeches or something like that, there's often a significant lead up to the action, to when it actually, takes off. But okay, we're up to 919,000. So I think it's starting to get fixed. 921,000. Yeah. There's Elon. Elon is back. All right. Yes. Yes. I'm so excited. What do you guys think? Like, what is your hope? What do you think he's going to say? What do you hope he's going to say? Do you think it's just going to be like a free form, the same normal campaign stuff that he usually says? Or do you think this is going to be different? You think it's going to be a little more in depth, a little more risque? You think he's going to say some stuff that he wouldn't normally say on like a main news network channel? Or do you think it's going to be the standard? Not that there's anything wrong with that. As you can tell, I'm a Trump guy. I've become much more of a Trump guy recently, simply because the alternatives are definitely the destruction of this country. I mean, there's no way around it at this point. Did you guys see there was a man that was dragged out of his car in Los Angeles, apparently by a group of about 30 teenagers that were riding bicycles in the road, and they drug him out of his car, beat him. He's got a broken leg, multiple contusions, destroyed his car. And this was, I think, like 2 weeks ago, and there have still been no arrests in LA. And the whole thing, by the way, was caught on film. I actually have it. I'm probably going to do an episode on that and other things that have been happening recently, because holy cow, man, realistically, no matter, like, look, Donald Trump has said some off the wall stuff. He has definitely put his hand on the scale on the, oh my God level. However, what's the option at this point? What else are you going to do? Are you going to vote for RFK? Like RFK, who I used to like, by the way, and I still like him as a person, I think, but he used to make a lot of sense. And, he was that third party, that independent, neither of these two parties, because as a buddy of mine is fond of saying, left wing, right wing, it's the same vulture. And he's not wrong. The party people, the people who are in the head leadership positions of both the DNC and the RNC, are career politicians. These are people that are just not out. They're out for themselves. And we see that with Mitch McConnell and Nancy Pelosi. It doesn't matter. Both sides. Oh, here we go.
All right. Hello, everyone. My apologies for the late start. We unfortunately had a massive distributed denial of service attack against our servers, and saturated all of our data lines. Like basically hundreds of gigabits of data were saturated. We think we've overcome most of that, and so it's now time to proceed. But as this massive attack illustrates, there's a lot of opposition to people just hearing what President Trump has to say, and but I'm honored to have this conversation. I want to emphasize it's a conversation, and it's really intended to just get a feel for what Donald Trump is just like in a conversation. It's hard to catch a vibe about someone if you just don't hear them talk in a normal way. And when there's an adversarial interview, like no one's themselves in an adversarial interview. So and this is really aimed at kind of open-minded, independent voters who are just trying to make up their mind. So you can understand like what is what is it just like to have a conversation. So honored to Donald, great to speak. We had a great conversation yesterday. As you mentioned yesterday, if we could just record that conversation and post it, it would have been excellent. And I hope we can have something like that today.
Well, I think we will. I'm pretty sure we will. And congratulations, because I see you broke every record in the book with so many millions of people. And it's an honor. We view that as an honor. And then you do want silencing of certain voices. Usually those are voices that have something to say that are constructive, oftentimes constructive. And so we have to consider it an honor. But congratulations on breaking every record in the book tonight. That's great.
Well, thank you. Well, maybe we could start off with, the assassination attempt, which was an incredible thing. And I have to say that, your actions after that assassination attempt were inspiring. You, instead of shying away from things, instead of ducking down, you were pumping your fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. And I think that's
awesome.
Awesome. The president of the United States represents America, and I think that is America. That is strength under fire, and so that's a big part of the reason why I was excited to endorse you as the president of the United States for having another term here. Is that was just incredibly inspiring. But what was it like for you?
That was badass.
Not pleasant. I have to be honest. I said there was blood. I had more blood. I didn't know I had that much blood. The doctors later told me that the ear is a place that is a very bloody place if you're going to get hit. But in this case, it was probably the best alternative you could even think about, because it went at the right angle, and it was a hard hit. It was very. I guess you would say surreal, but it wasn't surreal. I was telling somebody, you have instances like this, or like a lot less than this, where you feel it's a surreal situation. And I never felt that way. I knew immediately that it was a bullet. I knew immediately that it was at the ear.
Yeah.
And because it hit very hard, but hit the ear. And I also heard people shout, bullets, bullets, get down, because I moved down pretty nicely, pretty quickly. And we had bullets flying right over my head after I went down. So I'm glad I went down. The bigger miracle was that I was looking in the exact direction of the shooter. And so it hit me at an angle that was far less destructive than any other angle. So that was the miracle. That was, for those people that don't believe in God, I think we got to all start thinking about that. You have to, I'm a believer. Now I'm more of a believer, I think. And a lot of people have said that to me. A lot of great people have said that to me, actually. But it was amazing that I happened to be turned just at that perfect angle. And all because I put down a chart on immigration that showed that the numbers were so great. I love that chart even more
maybe
now.
It's a sign. Maybe that's a sign,
It's an immigration sign.
You highlighted a serious issue. And at that moment, the bullet missed your, hit your ear, but missed your head.
The amazing thing is that the sign, I said, bring down that sign on immigration, and it was literally about an eighth of a second where it would be good, and after that it was going to be a disaster, no matter which way you were facing. But it just had that perfect angle, which was exactly at this shooter. Very sad situation. Such a sad situation. As you know, we lost somebody that was great, Corey, who a firefighter, a great gentleman, a great Trumper. He was a just a fantastic family and a fantastic man. And a friend of mine came up, Elon, and said, I'd like to give the family some kind of help. And I said, all right, that's great. He said, do you mind? I said, I don't mind at all. And he wrote out a check for $1 million, gave it to the wife. And, you know, she said, this is really nice, but I'd rather have my husband back, which is a nice thing for
Sure.
somebody to say, to be honest. She's great. The family is great. And we raised a lot of
Yeah.
money for them and for two other gentlemen are unbelievable people also. They were hit really badly. They thought they were not going to make it, and they did. The doctors in the Butler area, I tell you, they were incredible. They saved the two, and they were really hit tough, both of them equally. And we thought,
Yeah.
my first question was because I heard bullets flying over me. And I said, how many people were killed? Because we had a massive crowd there, a tremendous,
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of people. And there was no land. I mean, it was all people. So I said, how many people have been killed? Because I knew there were other shots being fired.
Sure.
And they said, we don't know yet, but some people have been badly hurt. And I have to give the Secret Service sniper, they call him, or sharpshooter, but sniper, because he didn't know there was a problem. He's an extraordinary shot, obviously, and he didn't know there was a problem. And he was able to pick it all out within 5 seconds. And he used one bullet from very far away, I guess probably about 400 yards. The shooter was 130, but he was on the opposite side of the field and the podium. And he saw the smoke and the flame from the gun, immediately recognized it, and immediately took a shot. And it was one perfect shot from very far away. And if he didn't do that, Elon, he would have. I mean, if he would have, a lot more people could have been badly hurt and killed. So I have to take my hat off to him, because that's also a surreal. You know, he's been with them for 23 years, and he's never had anything like this. And all of a sudden he has to act, and it's a very tough thing to act and to be shooting somebody. But he saw the gun, saw the smoke, saw the flame from the gun, very far away. Obviously has very good eyes. He's got very good vision, which I assume you have to have in that particular work. But he took aim very quickly, and they say it was approximately 5 seconds from long range, one bullet. If that didn't happen, because the shooter had a lot of bullets, he had a lot of cartridges up there with him. So
well,
could have been very.
I mean, that's clearly, he was very competent in taking that shot to stop the attempted assassination. But I mean, there does seem to be, some pretty significant failings elsewhere in the system. Like, there's just no way that, like, how on earth does a shooter get on a roof 130 yards away? That seems crazy. I think most people people are wondering how on earth could such a thing happen.
Well, you know, I view it as two ways. There should have been nobody on the roof. There were people, because there were so many tens of thousands of people there. There were people that were seeing him, and there was one woman with a red shirt and Trump all over it, and she's screaming. That guy's got a gun. You know, you saw it probably. There's a guy up there with a gun.
I mean, it's like, I guess, I mean, for my part, and I think probably many members of the public are wondering, how the heck are, basically people wondering by pointing out there's a guy on the roof with a gun. And they're seeing it, but somehow it's not being addressed. That does seem crazy.
Well, they're going to learn from this. The communication between the local police, who sort of had an idea, and then ultimately a man lifted himself up to the roof, could barely do it because he was pulling himself up, and he saw the man with the gun. The man with the gun pointed the gun at him. He thought he was probably going to get shot, but he was like pulling himself up, and because of that, he couldn't get to his gun. And he fell down, actually very badly hurt his leg, his ankle. I hear very badly, but he fell down. And he did, from what I understand, he did say there's a guy up there with a gun. And the shooting started very quickly after that. I think it forced the shooter to go maybe quicker. You know, you're supposed to be a very good shot.
Yeah.
My sons, Don and Eric, they can't believe what happened, but they said from 130 yards, a bad shot would hit that target almost every time. They said it's like in golf,
Yeah.
sinking a 2-foot putt.
Yeah. It's not a tough
No,
shot.
it's not a long shot. The Secret Service person had the long shot. He had triple the
Yeah.
distance actually. So it was a terrible thing. Look, it's hard. I have to say this about the Secret Service. When I went down, and I went down based on, I think they're screaming, but other people also, because people saw this happen. You had so many people. One of the miracles was that nobody ran. I mean, if a gun goes off, the crowd
Yeah.
control people showed us this. When guns go off, and it does happen in stadiums at a soccer match or some kind of a match, everybody flees. They call it a stampede, like cattle. But everybody, and a lot of
Yeah.
people get killed with those stampedes. We had
Sure.
more people than you'd have at some of these matches or these games, and nobody left. You had a small group behind us in the grandstand, and that was full. And you look at it as it was taking place, and normally they'd be running. They didn't leave. They saw that I was hurt. They saw a lot of blood, and they saw that I went down. And it's almost like they wanted to be with me. Well, out front, you had thousands, tens of thousands of people. As far as the eye could see, you had people in Butler, as far as the eye could see, and
Yeah.
and
It
a
was
lot of
packed.
press too.
It was huge.
Many cameras on watching this. It's what makes it so different, because normally things happen that aren't good, but you never have a picture of it. Here we have all these cameras shooting it, so sort of amazing. But one of the interesting things was that you didn't have anybody flee. You didn't have anybody stampede.
Sure.
Nobody. And there were some people behind me. They stood up and they're looking like, I mean, I'll tell you, you want to have them in a foxhole with you. I want to meet some of those people, because it's so different from what you heard. But so I was down. But the Secret Service guys, there were bullets flying right over my head. You could hear them go whizzing, and these guys came jumping on top of me, and a young lady, Kate. Would jump. They moved so fast, and let me tell you, that took tremendous courage. Now there was a lack of coordination. There was, obviously everybody understands that somebody that building should have been covered. And,
I mean,
that was
I
the
think
big
that,
thing.
like, I mean, looking at the aerial views, that building would be like the number one spot for a sniper. I mean, it's like if you were to pick, like, what is the favorite? So if the goal is to assassinate, what's your favorite spot? That building. The
You're
roof
right.
of that building would be number one.
That would have been the spot.
It's like you can ask for a better location. It's like
Right.
number one.
That
That
would
and
have
the
been
water
spot.
tower.
You know what people think
Yeah.
is when the local policeman, who, by the way, he really, he did what he was supposed to do. He couldn't hold on any longer. And then when he got his head just peeking above, this guy standing there with a gun at his head. And when he fell down, again, hurt his ankle very badly, but he was making the calls. But what happened is the firing took place very soon. So what they think is that this guy ran to his site, which he had all planned out with the gun. He ran to the site and he started shooting fast. And maybe that's why he sort of missed. I mean, he
But as you
got
said,
me, but
you
it
would have
could have
hit.
been, could have been a much bigger problem.
But he totally would have hit if you hadn't turned your head. So, like, there was it was a very near thing.
It was a miracle. If I hadn't turned my head,
Yeah,
I would not be talking to you right now. As much as I like you,
exactly.
I would not.
Yeah,
I would not be talking.
I mean, be talking to me from another realm, perhaps.
Yeah, that's right. We'd be talking from a different place. But it was it was a very terrible experience. The Butler Hospital, they did such a great job. The doctors were so good. Everybody was so good. There was a mistake. If somebody knew, because people were hearing that, there was just a bad feeling that there was somebody was around. You know that story now. It's been And if somebody could have said, because they've oftentimes said, like there'd be a lightning storm or something, because I've done, I think, over 300. I think I did a lot more than that, but we did a lot. And oftentimes they'll say, sir, could you wait 10 minutes, please? Sir, could you wait 20 minutes? There's a storm overhead or lightning or something, right? And that happens often. And this would have been a perfect time for that to have happened. But It
Yeah.
didn't get coordinated. That was the problem.
They didn't even let his
Well,
team know. It was
it
ridiculous.
was your. I think your actions in the heat of fire, and like what I find admirable there was that you can't fake bravery under such circumstances. The courage is instinctual or it is not. It's
Agreed.
not a rehearsed action. And so I just want to say that I think a lot of people admire your courage under fire there. And
Well,
yeah, so
thank you very
yeah,
much. I appreciate it. I didn't think of it. I just wanted to get up and I wanted to stand up. I wanted to let people know, I felt I was good when they were on top of me, covering me, actually, very much covering me and very bravely. But I wanted to get up. I said, I want to get up. And they wanted, they have everything there. They wanted stretcher. I didn't like the stretcher. And I knew I was hit in the ear, but I knew I wasn't hit anywhere else. They felt I was hit someplace else
yeah,
because it was such a lot of blood. And they were sure that I was hit someplace else. And they were saying, "Sir, you were hit more than the ear." I said, "Nope, I was hit in the ear. I want to get up. Let me get up." And so I got up, and the crowd didn't know what to think. I mean, this was so many people, and you could see they were confused. They didn't know what to think. And I wanted to let them know I was okay. It was very important for me to let them
yeah,
know that. And they went wild. You've seen the
Oh
after.
yeah.
They didn't go wild when I
yeah,
got up because they didn't know, was I alive. You really couldn't tell when I stood up before the fist in the air. Uh, they didn't know if I was alive.
Right.
Nobody did.
No.
And when I put the fist up, they were just relieved and happy and thrilled, and the place went crazy. It was pretty amazing.
yeah.
It was a
Well,
terrible thing, but
it was
really nice.
incredibly moving. Yeah. Um, well, and I mean, speaking of
It also just
the
started.
sort of slide that got you to turn that uh, saved your life really was the illegal immigration
Right.
slide. Maybe this
That's right.
maybe this is worth talking about that
It
since
was. It was.
that slide
You're
saved your
right.
life
No,
basically.
the illegal immigration saved my life. You're right, but it was. And I
I
had to
know
be at
that's
that
the
exact
Oh
angle.
look, an
I mean
anime
that's not
anime
true.
profile pic. Why am I not
Saved
surprised?
by illegal
You know
immigration.
the incredible
100%.
thing though, when you talk about the odds, you had to be exactly at that angle. But the
Yeah,
incredible thing is that the chart I used it less than 20% of the time. It was just a moment.
yeah,
It's always on my left, never my right, and it's always at the end of the
It's
speech.
always these people.
So here
yeah,
we have it. It's on the right, not the left. It's at the beginning, not the end. And even the people that put it up, they were unprepared, and they did a great job. They got it up immediately, fortunately. But I looked to the right, and the bullet came whizzing by, hitting my ear. So it was amazing. But when you think of the odds of that, and
yeah, yeah,
that normally you wouldn't use it. Normally I wouldn't have the thing, and then it would
yeah.
have been a very different story. It's very much. I I say an act of God. It's a miracle that it happened, and I'm
Sure.
honored by it. I'm honored by it.
Well, what were you about to say about illegal immigration before you were rudely interrupted with the
Well, I was
bullet?
going to say how good the numbers were. By the way, we're going back to Butler, and we're going to go
Great.
back in October. We're all set up, and the people are fantastic in Butler. It's a great area. Great. These are incredible people. Like the three that, in the case of Corey, killed, and the other two, the families are.
I
I got to
responded to
know them a
what you
little
said.
bit, and the
I'll put it
families are
back
great.
up
But
for
we're
you.
going back to Butler, and I think I'll probably start by saying, as I was saying,
Unsurprisingly,
As you were
prior to
saying,
being so
so,
horribly interrupted.
yeah,
But
Dorito fingers. I'm guessing.
yeah. So
Right?
rudely interrupted by an
yeah,
assassination
so
attempt.
but no, but the chart,
Some people have no manners.
Elon, the chart was just a chart that in my last week we had the best illegal immigration numbers, meaning
You might want
stopping.
to tell mom you need some
It
hot
was at the lowest.
pockets.
You've seen the chart; it's become quite a famous
Yeah,
chart.
yeah,
But that was the lowest
yeah,
point ever recorded. It was a really, I mean, I was very proud of those numbers. And then you see what happened with these people, Kamala and Joe. You see what happened. They just let it go. I had remain in Mexico policies. I had all these different policies that was so good. Uh, Guys like Tom Homan and Brandon Judd from Border Patrol. These are all people that they've been on television. They said it's the best numbers we've ever had. We had so many different checks, catch and release in Mexico, not the United. We had catch and release in the United States. We had it in Mexico. We had so many things. We had things where many people come in there, they have contagious diseases. We had everything passed. If you have a contagious disease, I'm sorry, but we cannot allow you into the country. So we were setting literally records, and all I was doing is showing that, and I use it sometimes, and in this case, I'm glad I used it. I can tell you that, but there were fantastic numbers. But I'm going to sleep with that chart always. I'll be sleeping with that chart. That chart was very important for a lot of reasons.
Well, I mean, would it be accurate to say that you're supportive of legal immigration, but we obviously need to shut down illegal immigration, and especially unvetted illegal immigration, because and that's not the same as saying that everyone who's an illegal immigrant is bad. In fact,
Right.
I think most people who are illegal immigrants are actually good, but you can't tell the difference unless there's a solid vetting of who comes across the border.
That's the key.
Does that accurately
100%.
represent your position?
I say it very simply. They have to come in legally.
Yes.
They have to be checked.
Yeah.
Because look, Kamala was the border czar. Now she's denying it. Everything that I do, she's saying she was strong on the border. We're going to be strong. Well, she doesn't have to say it. She could close it up right now. They could do things right now. It's horrible. No tax on tips, and all of a sudden she's making a speech and there will be no tax on tips. I said that months ago.
Yeah.
And by the way, they had just the opposite. They had not only tax on tips, but they hired 88,000 IRS agents, and many of them were assigned to go get waitresses and caddies and all of this on tips. They have a policy. They had a policy that they were really going to go after you, and were really harassing people horribly. And then all of a sudden, for politics, she says, she comes out with what I said, which I think is terrible. And I think it's also hitting them very hard. These people are fake. Now they're also saying they did a good job on the border. We had the worst numbers in the history of the world, not of our country. There's never been a country in history that has had a catastrophe like this. We've had, I believe, and I think you believe this too, you hear 12 million, 13. I believe it's over 20 million people came into our country, many coming from jails, from prisons, from mental institutions, or a bigger version of that is insane asylums, and many are terrorists. And I'll tell you what, they're coming not just from South America, they're coming from Africa, they're coming from all over the world. They're coming from Asia, they're coming from the Middle East, they're coming from countries that are stupidly and horribly bombing Israel October 7th. They're coming from all over the world. And you look at, it's so sad, October 7th, because it should have never happened. It's so sad when you look at Ukraine. It should have never happened. We have a defective government. These are defective people, and they're not people that should be running it. But where you see it the best is the border, because you have millions of people coming in a month, and then she gets up and she tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She had 3.5 years. And by the way, they have another 5 months that they can do something, but they won't do anything. It's all talk. She's incompetent and he's incompetent. And frankly, I think that she's more incompetent than he is. And that's saying something, because he's not too good.
No, I think it is essential to have a secure border. I mean, you're really not a country unless you have a secure border. And
agreed.
And secure elections, too.
Absolutely, secure elections. And so it's just essential to have a real border, or we can't function as a country. And our service, our essential services are being overwhelmed in a lot of cities. But as we were talking about earlier, I think having
we're feeling it even up here
a
in
legal
Northwest
immigration process that is smooth and efficient and done well. And I, speaking as someone who is a legal immigrant, I think that like one way to think of it is, who do you want on your team? Who do you want on Team America? And I think we want to just say, okay, we want to let in people who are going to, be great contributors to our society and to our economy. And
very true.
who do you want on the team? And it's not to say that, like in my opinion, actually, I'd say like probably most of the illegal immigrants actually are actually good, hardworking people. That's my opinion.
I've
But
talked to a
some are
lot of them.
not. And you just have this sort of adverse selection process where, if somebody's, if somebody's like uh, has a career in theft or robbery, I don't understand what's taken them so long to get here, because we are in such a target-rich environment. I mean, why aren't more people who have a career in, bad things coming here sooner? Because it's a piece of cake to go rob, houses in LA or New York, compared to other parts of the world. And
Well, they're doing it.
in a lot of places in America, if you try to stop the person who's robbing you, you'll be arrested.
Yeah.
Which is insanity.
It's right. I mean, what's happening with crime, and our police are so good, but they're not allowed to do their job. But I have to tell you, Elon,
They're
I hate
not.
to say, because it's such a downer to say it. I hate to say it. I hate it. But you have a lot of people that just shouldn't be. I think it's a much bigger number than you think. They're allowing,
think you're
again,
right,
they're
yeah.
allowing people from their jails. And if you were running one of these countries where they're coming from, you would have had all of them. As an example, Venezuela, their crime is down 72%. They're taking their drug dealers. They're taking, frankly, their prisoners. They're emptying out their prisons.
Mhm.
They're taking their criminals, their murderers, their rapists, and they're delivering them into.
But that's what Castro did.
Yeah,
that.
well, he did on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
It was a much smaller
Yeah.
scale. But this is a massive scale because this is being done worldwide. But here's what's happening: crime all over the world is down. And wait till you see the numbers that we have. This is migrant crime. This is crime that's going to be.
Yeah.
And I saw it today in New York where somebody was knifed with raped the girlfriend of a man that stood there watching in New York in one of the shelters, and started
Sure.
pulling out the knives, and
That's
bad things
horrible.
happen today. But this is happening every day. These are rough people. These are people that are in jail for
Yeah.
murder and all sorts of things. And they're releasing them into our country. And they're telling them, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to give you the death penalty or kill you. So they don't want to come back. But these are rough people.
Yeah.
These are criminals that make our criminals look like nice people. And it's horrible what they're doing. And she's in charge of it because, now she's trying to say
Sure.
she had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And she's such a liar because she was called the border czar the first day, and it was on the headlines of every newspaper. She's the border czar, and she never even went there. She went to one location which had nothing to do with where the problem is.
Yeah.
She went in and out, I
Right.
guess, because she was getting a lot of pressure, but
Yeah.
had nothing to do with the problem
Yeah.
is. But she was the
Well-
border czar, and people
Yeah, yeah.
can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign. Now she's trying to say that she wasn't really involved, and the whole thing is horrible. She was totally in charge. She could have shut the border down without him. He didn't know what he was doing anyway, so he wouldn't have even known
Yeah.
what happened. You could shut the border down. He
Yeah.
wouldn't even know the difference. But the fact is that she was border czar. But if you don't have to call her
Yes.
that, the fact is you could just call her. She was in charge of the border, and the border was the worst
Right.
ever.
It's simply not working.
No, it's horrible.
Whether it's a question of intention or competence, either way, we don't have a secure border, and we have people streaming over like it looks like a World War Z zombie apocalypse at times. And sometimes you got to sort of wonder, like, is it real or not? So because you see things, you're like, is it real? So I went to the border at Eagle Pass, and I saw for myself in Texas, and I was like, okay, it's real. I'm like seeing this in real time. I actually posted the video like just live. I just flew there one day and just to see, hey, is this made up or real? And I'm just seeing people stream across the border, and I have to say, at least the people that I saw did not look friendly.
These are
people can look at my video and say,
Yeah.
hey, these people look friendly. I don't look super friendly. So
These are people that
Um,
Elon would not be the same man if he had to walk across the street and look these people in the eye. These are rough people. These are really rough people coming across. And I know rough people. And these are people that we don't want in our country. And, the caravans are coming in, and they're putting, and who's doing this are the heads of the countries. And You would be doing
Yeah.
it, and so would I. And everyone would say, oh, what a terrible thing to say. The fact is, it's brilliant for them because they're
Right.
taking all of their bad
problems.
people, really bad people.
Mhm.
And I hate to say this, the reason the numbers are much bigger than you would think is they're also taking their non-productive people. Now, these aren't people that will kill you. We have enough of them. But these are people that are non-productive.
Right.
They are just non-productive. I mean, for whatever reason, they're not
Yeah, yeah.
workers or they don't want to work or whatever. And these countries are getting rid of non-productive people in the caravans in many cases. And they're also getting rid of their murderers and their drug dealers and the people that are really brutal people. And they're coming into our country
Yeah.
at levels that have never been seen before. And I saw an ad
And
just
they all
before
seem
I
to have
got on
new
the air.
clothes.
I'm walking over
The
here,
caravans.
and I saw an ad by Kamala saying how she is going to provide border security. Where has she been for 3.5 years? For 3.5 years,
Yeah, no,
we have 20 million people
this I
poured
think
in.
is,
It's a terrible
yeah, I
thing.
think this, frankly, I think this is a fundamental existential issue for the United States. And if we have another 4 more years of open borders, and it's going to be even worse with another 4 more years, it's going to be even worse than it's been for the past, 3.5 years.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not sure we've got a country.
You don't
left
have a country
at that
left.
point.
Elon,
No, it won't
if
survive.
they get in, you will have 50 to 60 million people from all over the world, not South America only. You know, we think of South America, we think of Honduras and El Salvador, Guatemala, and Mexico, you know, the 4. But it's not that. It's everywhere. They're coming in from
Yeah,
everywhere. And I had to stay in
yeah, I think
Mexico.
this is a super important
Yeah.
point. Like people, it's like basically when I went down there, I was like, well, where are people from? It's like almost no one was
Yes.
from Mexico. to
No,
be clear.
Mexico
Yes.
less.
It's just the border.
Blue
It's just the
collar.
border with Mexico, but the people coming
Some
in,
white collar.
it's Earth, the rest of Earth, and America is only about 4 or 5% of the population of Earth. It would only take a few percent of the rest of Earth to overwhelm everything in
We're
the US.
already
So,
overwhelmed, Elon. We're overwhelmed. You had to see the news tonight about New York, and I love that place. And what they're doing to it is horrible. What they're doing to it, and all the courts do is they
Yeah.
try and focus on Trump. Okay, then let's focus on Trump, who did nothing wrong. I complain about a rigged election. Elon, what's happened is unbelievable. You have from Africa. From the Congo, they're coming from the Congo, and 22 people came in from the Congo recently, and they're murderers, and they're dropped. They drop them. They take them out of jails, which is very expensive, to maintain the jails. Although they don't do too much maintaining, I can tell you. But they take them out of jails, prisons. They take them out, and they bring them to the United States. They deposit them in the United States and say, "Don't ever come back, or you're going to be executed." And they don't want to come back. But they won't come back.
Sure.
But they're coming from
Are you?
Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East.
A
They're coming
working-
from South America.
just
They're
Earth.
coming
Man,
from
woman,
rest of Earth,
everywhere.
basically.
And there are a lot of
Yeah,
really
everywhere on
bad
Earth.
ones.
It's just an everywhere on Earth thing, and it's just not possible for the United States to absorb everyone from Earth, or even a few percent of the rest of Earth. It's just not possible. So
Well, Elon, we're going to have, to finish this up, we're going to have the largest deportation in history of this country. And we have no choice. Otherwise, we're going to have a country, what they've done to our country. Think of it. With in Venezuela and in some of these other countries, crime is down 50, 60, 70, 80%. And you would be the same. You would have.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Venezuela has not gotten rid of all of them. They've gotten rid of about 70% of their really bad people. Their jails are about 50% put into the United States. Same
That
with other
explains a lot.
countries.
Sure.
Some are at 30%. Some are at 50%.
No,
They're
it's
all
not
different.
meant badly.
But the bottom line
I'm
is
just
they're all
saying
going
it
to be at
explains a lot.
100%. Why wouldn't you put 100% of it?
Yeah.
And they're doing it right now while this third-rate phony
When this is
candidate.
over, we can chat.
Don't forget, I beat Biden. He failed in the debate miserably. And, some
Here's
people
a
said,
thought
oh,
for
gee,
you,
it's too bad. It's too bad he did so badly, or I did well in the debate. The first night they said, wow, one of the people at CNN said that was the greatest debate performance I've ever witnessed. And then 2 days later, they didn't talk about that. They just said he was bad.
Yeah,
but that's okay.
that's
That's
true.
the way I get treated, and I don't mind that at all. What I can tell you is this. We cannot have a Democrat. We cannot have her. She's incompetent. She's as bad as Biden in a different.
Yeah.
Look, she hasn't done an interview since this whole scam started.
Yeah, he just kind of vanished.
And
didn't
say
he?
what you want. This was a coup. This was a coup of a president of the United States. He didn't want to leave, and they said we can do it the nice way or we can do it the hard way.
Yeah, I mean, they just took him out back behind the shed
Exactly.
and basically shot him.
That's the
You
point.
know,
Oh, what they did with
We'll
this
talk about
guy,
it.
So,
and I'm no
yeah.
fan of his, and he was a horrible president, the worst president in history. And one of the reasons he was so bad, first of all, the Israeli attack would have never happened. Russia would never have attacked Ukraine, and we'd have no inflation. And we wouldn't have had the Afghanistan mess, if you think of it.
Well,
and we wouldn't have had Afghanistan. But we think of it, you take a few of those events away, and we have a different world. We would also have inflation was caused by oil.
Yeah, I think you're making an excellent point here, which is that when other countries can, that are thinking about invading or doing bad things, when they're thinking about that, they're thinking about, okay, what's the American president going to do? And do they fear the American president, or is there someone they do not respect?
It's a good question.
And do not fear.
I don't think anyone respects or fears Biden.
They would rightfully be. I mean,
they were in line with Trump.
Footage with the assassination. They're like, okay, President Trump is like
the capitulation tour.
I mean, that's like. Whereas I think people are not going to be, and they obviously have not been at all intimidated by Biden, and they certainly will not be intimidated by Kamala. And you have to really think of that in the context of global security. That's if the American president is someone that, like, evil dictators are scared of, that makes a huge difference to the security of the world.
So I had a good relationship with Putin, despite the Russia hoax that lasted for over 2 years. Just a hoax created by Hillary Clinton and Adam Shifty Schiff, some just bad people, just sick people.
A couple
frankly.
of points.
I mean, Schiff is a sick person. He's going to end up probably being a senator.
I don't
it's
disagree
hard to believe. The whole thing is hard to believe. But they put our country in danger with that stuff too. They actually, when they make up stories, and you have to fight your way out of it for a long time. But I know Putin very well. I got along with him very well. He respected me, and it's just one of those things. And we would talk a lot about Ukraine. It was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't ever do it. Don't ever do it. I shut down Nord Stream 2. That was the big oil pipeline, the biggest pipeline in the world going all over Europe. I shut it down. Biden came, and then they say, I loved Russia. I was a friend of Putin, and I loved Russia. No. He actually said to me one time, he said, if you're my friend, I'd hate to see you as an enemy. I shut down his pipeline, the biggest pipeline. They were looking at that to fund. And this pathetic president gets in there. And the first thing he did, one of the early things he did is he shut down Keystone XL pipeline, which is our pipeline that would have employed 48,000 people, pipeline workers, shuts it down. That was, a massive job that Obama refused to allow.
Yeah.
I allowed it in my first week because it was jobs and it moved oil. And by the way, in a much more environmentally friendly way. It's underground. It's not a truck that catches on fire or a train that catches on fire. But think of it. He shut down the XL pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline.
Yeah.
He shuts that down and he approves the Russian pipeline.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's inconsistent. Certainly, but I mean, I think it's just worth emphasizing, to listeners, the immense importance of whether the United States president is intimidating or not intimidating, and how much that matters to global security, because there's some real tough characters out there, and if they don't think the American president is tough, they will do what they want to do.
I know every one of them.
And that puts the whole world in danger.
Elon, I know every one of them, and I know them well. I know Putin. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. I know every one of them. And let me tell you, people will say, oh, this is terrible. He said, I'm not saying anything good or bad. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious. And they're going to protect their country, whether they love their country. They probably do. It's just a different form of love, but they're going to protect their country. But these are tough people at the top of their game. And when they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it. They can't believe this happened. All the stuff that you're seeing now, all the horror that you look at Israel, they're all waiting for an attack from Iran. Iran would not be attacking, believe me. when I was there, and I say it with respect because I think we would have been good with Iran. I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around. Iran was broke because I told China, if you buy from Iran oil, it's all about the oil. That's where the money is. But if you buy oil from Iran, you're not going to do any business with the United States. And I meant it. And they said, we'll pass. They didn't buy oil. Other countries, likewise.
Sure.
You want to buy, you're not doing business with the United States. And they were at a point where they had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for any of these instruments of terror. And it was amazing. In fact, there were articles when I was leaving, which is hard to believe, actually, especially when you look at what's happened to our country. Our country is so bad right now. It's such a different place. We were respected. Think of it. 4 years ago, we were so respected to a point where when I said don't buy oil, they didn't buy oil, but they had no money, and Israel would have never been attacked. Zero chance. And again, I said to Vladimir Putin, I said, don't do it. You can't do it, Vladimir. You do it, it's going to be a bad day. You cannot do it. And I told him things that what I do, and he said, no way. And I said, way. And it's the last time we ever had the conversation. He would never have done. I got along well with him. I hope to get along well with him again. Getting along well with them is a good thing, not a bad thing. I got along well with Kim Jong-un. When I met with President Obama just before entering, it's a sort of a ritual. And I sat down with him and we talked. It was supposed to be for a very short period of time. It turned out to be a long period of time. I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea. I had that problem worked out very quickly. It was nasty at the beginning with Rocket Man and, all the different things. Yeah. But all of a sudden I got a call.
Those were some epic tweets, by the way.
Yeah, they were epic, everything. He said that he has a red button on his desk. I said, I have a red button on my desk too, but my red button is much bigger and my red button works. And then I called him Little Rocket Man of Little Rocket Man. Anyway, here's the bottom line. All of a sudden I got a call from him. And they said they want to meet. They want to meet me. And we met, as you remember, we met in Singapore. We met also in Vietnam. And I got along with them great. We were in no danger. But President Obama thought we were going to end up in a war, a nuclear war with him. And let me tell you, he's got a lot of nuclear stuff, too. Exactly. He's got plenty of nuclear. He can do plenty of damage.
Yes, I mean, it's because, people like Kim Jong-un, they respond to strength, not weakness.
Well, he and I had a good relationship. Remember I met him and we walked onto his land. Nobody ever walked onto his land before. I walked onto. I wouldn't say. Let's bring up Secret Service again. I wouldn't say they were thrilled when I did that. I walked onto his land, and it was an amazing period. But we were not in danger with him because of me. I always say that we have enemies on the outside and we have enemies on the inside. We have some really bad people in our government and people that are controlling of the people. I mean, I'd mention names, but I really don't want to give them the credit. But we have some really bad, and I say they're more dangerous than Russia and China. If you have a smart president, a president that gets it, we are not in danger from those countries because they need us and they need our help. I mean, we forced Obama, if you think about it, Obama and Biden, and Bush to a certain extent, in all fairness, forced Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat. Yeah. The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise 1/8 of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries now that have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, And I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that. And we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ.
I don't
He had a low
disagree
IQ
that there are
30 years
issues
ago,
with the
by the way,
American
but now
health
he might
system.
not even have a
But
IQ at
what
all.
are the
There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disastrous.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people. And Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story. But if you think about it, Russia's gone, Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force.
Yeah. Sure.
And it's very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight. And we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you I could have stopped that. And a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened.
Of socialized medicine.
We had a man that actually made it. It made
it's also
it more
something
prevalent.
I'm very familiar with.
It was so
My wife
bad.
works in the industry.
The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using.
My family has a deep understanding
of. War. He's going to cause this. And let me tell you, it can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have
the point is it's all
places
connected.
that could end up in a World War III right now for no reason whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for
all
humanity.
Connected because in order to do
it's something that people have
the things like you're talking about
end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are
you have to cover
currently a lot of
and
nuclear
choices have to be made.
That,
Look up death panels
that have targeted parameters for the United States and other countries.
And one of the things we're going to do is we're going to build an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries.
This economy is garbage.
The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this
beef bologna
administration allows this
almost
to happen.
$9.
And it's a shame.
At my local
and that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot.
$8.57.
And we discussed the border at great length. It's nice to have a forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, do you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on you.
But that's okay. Stick around.
They don't need Elon.
I will break it down better.
They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's pretty
related
sad
to what's happening
when you
in Canada.
That somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers.
Now, I'm all for.
But the big thing now is
being able
to
afford.
Elon.
Yeah.
And
I declared medical bankruptcy.
I mean, I viewed nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't understand
with
that.
medical costs here in this country.
If I understand it, that's all you need, because if I was president,
and
you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But
I'm all for
the thing that they
people
really
not going bankrupt.
Is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation.
It's how you go about
the inflation, it doesn't matter what you make. The inflation has eaten you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person,
I agree.
You can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing that's happening. And we'll end that quickly.
Well, I think a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the
Yes.
checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the
They
government
just print more money.
spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we
Yes.
need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days.
Yeah, it's insane.
And, you know,
It's
the
completely out of
interest
control.
payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget.
Yeah,
It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest.
And it keeps
I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. You know, we had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that.
Yeah.
Then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. You know, they're one of the largest sellers of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline.
Yes.
Now your cars don't require too
Energy
much
prices
gasoline, so,
affect everything,
and you
particularly
do make
gasoline.
a great product. I have to say. I have to be honest with you.
Thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When
How is
that
it
comes
beyond
down,
your
and we're going to
belief?
drill baby
Like I said,
drill.
we'll actually
they stopped
discuss
drilling,
it.
and
I have a
then
lot more
they went back
information,
to drilling,
but I don't want to talk
because
over
they
this.
went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, this country will go out of business, because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things. You're not going to have anything.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So
Yeah,
you're going to have to
a lot of people
we're gonna
don't
have to build a
understand
lot
that
of energy
about all
if
these
our country will be competitive with China, because that's
all
our
these
primary
AI facilities they're
competitor for
building
this,
around the country.
on the AI.
One very
You're going to
nearby.
need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity.
a
You're
lot
going
of
to need
power.
tremendous electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
Sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government spending and have perhaps a government efficiency commission that just tries to make the spending sensible, and so the country lives within its means, just like a person
The
does?
waste is incredible, and nobody negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, I went through it, like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general said, "Sir, would you please sign this document?" And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s. And the price was $5.7 billion for two planes. Now, now they're highly sophisticated. They're even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very, I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's 5.7.
That's a crazy
It's
number.
a crazy
That's
number.
an
But I
insane
said, I'm not
amount.
going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price
Racing
by that.
stripes.
But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane. And you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other items.
Multiply it by
yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and just ensures
That's supposed
that
to be what
taxpayer money,
Congress does,
the
but
taxpayers'
Congress's own.
hard-earned money is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, "You want to quit?" They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, "That's okay. You're all gone."
Yeah,
you're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to help
by the way,
out.
congratulations. I
Yeah.
just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's awesome.
he's great. And he's a big MAGA fan, that he ran on MAGA. And he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA,
Yes, he did.
and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like 2,000%. They had inflation like not.
How is
normal
Argentina
inflation.
doing
They
these
had
days, guys?
The real deal. But we're going to have that pretty soon. I think we have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending and not spending taxpayer money effectively, and having just so many departments you can't even name them all. And what Malay is doing is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's putting in regulations that make sense, and Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement in prosperity, but it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. In the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38.
Our
Norway,
education system is jacked.
Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7. But we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do,
More
one of
money
the first
isn't
acts,
always
and
the
this is
solution.
where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states, where states like Iowa,
used to do great.
where states like Idaho, not every state will do great, because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the 50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15 of them, or 20 of them, will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. You can name them. I mean, they're so good. Some of these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well-run.
Sure.
And maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of, the land or the the sun and the water and the whole thing. You know, there are a
70s.
lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, but they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But if you think about it, you'll have some of these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than half what it is in Washington. And these people don't care about the students in these, you know, faraway states. And it'd be unbelievable.
Yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will naturally move to states where it's better.
Well, like California, you know, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But you know, some of these places are just badly run. But you know, it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do it good initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that the cost, you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little monitor. You know, you want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. You know, give us a little English, right?
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. No, but I mean, too much. I mean, some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul.
It's actually amazing.
People moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois. So many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean,
in Indiana, we see it. Tons of people are moving into Indiana.
I saw where you left California, and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, you know, I mean, I just wonder, how do these states
right here.
Survive?
It's on Spaces,
when
which
big
is voice
businesses,
only.
a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive?
We're listening to it right now.
When they lose so many businesses? And their taxes are already really high. You know, the taxes are among the highest taxes.
See here.
You almost wonder, how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder, how do they continue to just go on? It's not a good situation.
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal government.
Right.
You can find it if you want to find it directly on Donald Trump's.
You remember the area in California where they had that,
Twitter
where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very nasty for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So you know, at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So you know what? Is he going to be a great governor? And you know, you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that, I mean, the larger point here, too, you know, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that save money, and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation.
Yes.
And if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living, and that's a really big deal.
Well, the people that got hurt worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it, all through, you know, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money, and then they got no interest on their money, and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. You know, when I look at bacon costing
that's funny.
4 or 5 times more than it did a few years ago. When you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, you know, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at it's sticker shock. They call it sticker shock, right?
Look at this.
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is is
Right
that
here.
if you solve government overspending,
that's
you solve
Instacart, so that's
inflation,
inflated,
which
but-
improves living
Right.
standards of the
Look,
the
at
average
Target,
person. And then
$7.99
if you deregulate, like have sensible
for
regulation.
freaking
So
baloney.
because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason. But unless you've got effective deregulation, like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been
Unreal.
40 years since we had
Yeah,
anyone.
that's what I'm
really,
saying.
I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think there's opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation. And if
Well,
if
Elon,
those two things, yeah.
That's
a big
what
deal.
we
that's
set
what
a
it's about
record.
for you, huh?
We did more
Okay.
deregulation and more restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember, I had the rule for every one we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did
Yes.
radical cuts on all of that. And a lot of that's being put back by
There's
this
way more to
administration.
it than that.
And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But
Far less important.
We were all set. We had the best
is
economy
the taxes.
ever maybe in the world. And then what
Far more
happened is
important is
COVID came in,
governmental spending.
and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it
regulation.
was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But
Here's an example.
if had that not happened, a gift from
Look at
China,
California.
from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to make a fortune. And then the COVID came in, and we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is,
not
when
at all.
Biden
It's just
came
part
in,
of the conversation.
he got trillions of dollars.
I don't expect one Google search to change
You
anyone's
didn't need
mind.
it anymore.
What
we
I
got
do
over
expect,
that bad
however,
period
is to
where
have an
it was
open
everybody
dialogue.
was dying, and it was just not a good period. Interestingly, during his administration, many more people died during his administration of COVID than during my administration, and we really got the brunt of it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it diverted us from doing what I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the great, and that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years, and also said that African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best. Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should probably say something about maybe my views on climate change and oil and gas, because I think it's probably different from what most people would assume. Because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So it's I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry, and the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other countries. and it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same
True.
time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there. It's not infinite. And there is some risk. I think it's not, the risk is not as high as you know, a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to, like, you know, stop farmers from farming, or, you know, prevent people from having steaks, or
Right.
basic stuff
Right.
like that. Like you leave the farmers alone.
I agree.
in
How
my
crazy
opinion.
is that? Where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is
yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But it's largely
It's
taken its
insanity.
lead from us. I do say, though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car, you know, fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, you know, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. You know, much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
But there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove it, to get rid of it. He ended it. His secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly, because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure, really good stuff. And, you know, they end it. So I think we have, you know, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that time, something will come around that will be very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, you know, a little more aggressive than that.
Oh,
but
wow.
it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years stuff. That's obviously BS. But I mean, my view is like if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you know, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3 to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. And I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm, because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard,
right?
Just so it's, you know, that's actually, you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So we don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think I think we want to just move over, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know, mostly sustainable, I think that'll probably be okay. So it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term, I think this can be done. Without, you know, people can still have, you know, a steak, and they can still drive gasoline cars, and this, you know, it's okay. It's like, it's not, I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability. I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way.
I'm not opposed
so
to
you get the
alternate
solar
energy
power,
sources.
combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So
Right.
we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally,
They are cool.
I mean, the sexy joke, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there. But I don't know, I like cheesy humor, So, but I'm a big fan of let's have an inspiring future,
Right.
and let's work towards.
Do you like the Cybertruck?
Better future, and we can do so with.
What do you think, guys?
Right,
out there.
I'm okay.
What's your
it's
opinion
very
of Cybertruck?
interesting.
Hideous,
you use
gorgeous.
the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is warming.
So
some
bad,
places are going
Cybertruck.
the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with
Climate
solar
change,
panels
that
on the
whole thing's
roofs
a
of your
scam.
cars and on the trunks of the cars, and it just seems like something that
I
at
can
some
prove
point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first. But it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good.
Yeah.
At least in certain areas
It's not
of the
my
country
favorite.
where you have the world
Sure.
where you have the sun. But
To a degree.
I would think, and
To
I
a
have
degree.
no
Let me
idea
qualify
because
that.
that's not my
To a
world. But
degree.
I would think that this would be something.
Climate
that would be
change itself
interesting.
is happening.
But the one thing
But
that
the
I don't
fact that
understand is that
these
people
people
talk
push
about global warming,
all you need
or
to
they
do
talk about
is
climate change,
blah blah blah.
but they
You
never
need to
talk
stop
about
flying.
nuclear
You need
warming.
to do this.
And to
America
me,
needs
that's
to do
an
this.
immediate problem.
China is
Because you
exempt.
have, as I said, 5
India is
countries
exempt.
where you have major nuclear,
Paris Climate Accord is an example.
probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where
The
you
world
need a
was
strong
supposed to
American
end
president because
decades ago.
you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have
It's supposed
5
to be underwater,
countries
all
and
the icebergs melt,
getting more.
all that stuff.
China is
They've been
much
saying
less
this
than
over
us
and
right
over,
now, but they're
over and over and over.
going to
and over.
catch us sooner than people think. They're way lower. Russia and us are number 1, and we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that, you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even surpassing. But to me, the biggest problem is not
There it is.
climate change. It's not, and everything's, a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk about I'll prevent World War III, I will. But the truth is that you have to, because this is no longer army tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is a nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation is underrated.
You're right.
Nuclear power plants have actually been shown to be very, very, very safe.
Nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms of electricity generation. It's just a huge misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by
nuclear power is.
I'm not trying to pick on coal mining,
awesome.
but just any kind of mining operation. And there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better.
Exactly.
So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done.
Right.
So that
maybe they'll have to change the name.
The
name is it's a rough name. There are some areas like
it's rough
like
name.
when you see what happened in
bad branding.
Right,
The
we'll have
branding
to
rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something.
No,
it has a branding problem. When you see what happened,
it does have a branding problem.
When you see what happened in Japan,
necessarily
where they
wrong.
say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see
Fukushima.
that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they,
Chernobyl.
There's a lot of bad things happened, and they have a problem. And they say that in 2,000 years, people will start to occupy the land again.
Have you guys seen the HBO?
No, that's not true.
But there's
miniseries.
You're right about it. It's amazing.
It's actually not that bad. So like
I found it actually very, very good.
Like people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it.
It's in
and I
Ukraine,
donated
actually.
a solar water treatment, a solar powered system for a water treatment plant. And
Yeah, but you haven't
because the
been
danger
feeling
is
so
just
well lately, and I'm worried about it.
no, but I mean,
Pripyat.
I'm only kidding.
it's fine,
Pripyat.
It's
I think
like
it's Pripyat.
Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but
Oh,
now
yeah.
they're
My
like
bad.
full
You're
cities
right.
again. So
Right.
it's
Well, that's
really
great.
You're
not
right. Because
something that
I'm an 80s kid.
That's right.
It was
so
all
it's
one
not,
place.
It's not as
Soviet
scary as
Union.
people think, basically.
It
But
was all one place. My bad.
let's see.
You
I
got
mean,
me.
are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think
Well,
we need to be concerned about
what they've done to this country.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we just won the big
I mean,
case in Florida. This was a Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use the local DAs, they use the local attorney generals, like Fani, Fani, spelled Fani, Fani. And it's all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare. It's a terrible thing, and
if you
never
ever
happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries.
It's a documentary on
never
Netflix,
happened.
which I hate Netflix. But
the incredible thing is, it actually
it's called
drove my
Survivor's
numbers up
Guide to
because
Prison.
people see, fortunately, I have a platform.
I've actually been on both
like
sides
you,
of the
or
bars.
you know,
When I was a
in all
teenager,
fairness,
I
like
did
a
stupid
conversation
stuff,
like this,
and I went
where
to
I
jail.
can talk about it and people understand. I mean, you
Later on, I
you
became a
fight
correctional
for
officer
election
'cause it was
integrity,
just
and
a
you end up
minor
getting indicted
misdemeanor.
because you're fighting
But
for election integrity.
I've seen both
And when
sides.
the day comes
And
that you can't
there's
fight for
a
election
show
integrity, you
called
don't have a country anymore. So what
Survivor's
happens
Guide to Prison.
is they went after their
Really
political
good.
opponent, me. Now Biden's close to vegetable stage, in my opinion. Okay, I looked at him today on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's meant for children and old people.
Did you guys see him at the beach?
And he can't lift it. The whole thing is crazy.
Well, he's clearly. He's clearly like, we just don't have a president. Right
you
now.
don't have a president, and she's going to be worse than him because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there, you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous place, and she is a radical left San Francisco liberal, and now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than Trump.
Yeah.
I want a wall.
I think that's,
she wants to release all the prisoners that are in detention, and some of these guys are really bad.
Right.
That just came out today. She doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business, everything you do is obsolete, almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200 miles.
Not just that.
We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means that they actually do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders, and now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah, this is simply not
Yeah.
true. This is simply
No,
not
and
true.
everybody
Yeah,
knows
it's
it's
simply
not true. It's a disgrace that
I
she
mean,
can
maybe.
say it.
No, I mean,
Maybe.
obviously, what's happening?
I suppose that's one way to
overnight
look at
is
it.
they're rewriting history and
They are
and
rewriting
making,
history. by the way.
Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie
Yes.
Sanders.
Very
She is considered
progressive.
more
Yeah.
liberal by far than Bernie Sanders.
Here's
She's
the wild
a
part,
radical
right?
left lunatic. And if she's going to be our
Certain
president,
progressive
very quickly,
ideas
you're not going to have a
are not
country anymore.
inherently
And she'll go
bad.
back to all
Yeah.
of the things that
That's
she
going
believes in.
to
She believes in
which,
defunding
by the way,
the police.
clever little word
She
play
believes
there.
in no
Copenhagen.
fracking, zero.
I get it.
Now all of a
Yeah.
sudden
But-
she's saying, no, I will. I
You're
really
absolutely
want
right.
to see fracking. If they
A
got
family
in,
member's
the
health problem
day
should
she
not
got
lead to
in, she'll
bankruptcy.
end fracking. And by the way, if people
But how
didn't
do you
think
get
that,
to
the lunatics
fixing
that really believe in that,
in a country
they won't vote for her.
that
You
is
know,
founded on capitalism without
like the
social medicine?
Palestinians, and
Medicare for
Israel,
all is not
she is
sustainable,
so
especially
anti-Israel, and she's bad for both.
if you
Biden
want to
actually did
throw
something that was
all the
impossible.
illegals in there as
Both
well.
sides
It's
hate
just
him.
not.
You know,
it's not
both
feasible.
sides.
It's not
That was a
possible.
hard
Yeah.
thing to do. Unification.
At the same time,
Yeah, no. I mean, the
Current system,
Netanyahu came to
unsustainable.
give
Agreed.
a talk to a joint Senate and House sitting, and I was there, and Kamala stood him up. What does that say?
I think it's highly
that's,
disrespectful. And I
She
say,
really
if
is.
you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a
highly
person that,
disrespectful.
is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden, and Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined.
Okay.
And you see tonight,
That's something to
as
talk
we're
about.
doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from
How do you get to
hundreds
that?
and maybe thousands
That's
of
why
rockets.
I put California's
Their
minimum wage
Iron
problems.
Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, but their shield that they build, that can be swamped.
As
We'll use
a
the term
blue collar
Yeah.
worker for most of my
swamped.
life,
But
I am
they
Yeah.
swamp it
wholeheartedly in favor
by shooting
of
enough
paying
missiles. You know this
workers
better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles,
Sure.
they can't defend themselves. They just obliterate the whole
Yeah.
place.
But there's no
And that's
easy
what
way to
some
implement
people
that.
think they're looking to do.
Not
And
here.
we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United
But as
States
an
of America
idea,
with these people.
I'm not
And
against it.
I'm telling you,
Yeah.
she'll be worse than him because she's a believer
Yeah, no,
in
I
being
think you're right.
radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right.
That's true.
You really, it's
She's
important for the
far
for the
further
public
left
that
than
may be
Biden.
listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it,
Right.
because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her
so I
her
think
running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay,
Which
Now,
is just
that's all I
weird.
have to hear. Tampons
That's
in
insane.
boys' bathrooms,
there's no
and that
reason.
means she believes in that too. I mean,
Yeah, that's
she
not
picked
okay.
this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders.
So is gun
If
control.
we have
and
her as a
the
president, if
disarming
we
of
have a
citizens,
Democrat at this
least
moment as the
allegedly
president,
working.
I don't think
right?
our country can
Not
survive.
here.
I think it's a massive. I think
Not
we're
here.
in massive trouble, frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's
Certain
my
things
honest
will work in
opinion.
other countries that will not
and,
work in the United States.
And I think
Thankfully.
I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country for this election, and I'm just stating my opinion. Now,
True.
you may have seen this, but I got a letter
And
from
yet,
the
we run the
EU
world.
Commission, saying, to not have disinformation on during this discussion
back
that
to
we're
back,
having.
World War champs.
There's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship, even on Americans from other
You and me
countries.
both.
And
I wish the USA was
what do you
not
think about
as
that?
imperialistic
Well, I know
as
the
it is and
European
involved in
Union
everybody's
very
business.
well. They take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different form, NATO, we protect them, and yet if you build a
not
car
wrong.
in the United States,
not
you
wrong.
can't sell
It's
it in Europe. You
entertaining.
just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business.
Yes.
We have a deficit with them of
My cousins are
$250
farmers, by the
billion dollars,
And,
which people don't
they're
know. It sounds so nice,
hard.
the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough
They're
as
having a hell of
China,
a
but they're
time.
bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well.
Mm-mm.
We defend them, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations that, in terms of an economy, it's about the same size, wouldn't you say, as us? And they're in, and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. Used to be for the Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're in for 70-something million.
Psycho.
I think even
You're
less
talking
than
about
that. Billion.
Stop listening
and
to the
we're
media.
in for
He's not a psycho.
about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that.
You want a war criminal?
And I
back?
say, why aren't you going to equalize?
George
Why
Bush.
aren't they
Ugh.
paying what we're paying? And they're in much more,
God, no.
it's much more important for them because of the fact that, they're right near there. I mean, they're all sort of in that location. We're not. But they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States was the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said, you got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat. But you know what happened?
So.
Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in.
I would much rather
I think
the destruction
of
my
public
country
isn't aware of the fact that the United
alternative.
States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
And then we get taken advantage of on trade. So think about it.
Well, I mean, the point of NATO
he
is
says
defending Europe.
He does say some off the wall shit. I will wholeheartedly agree with you.
Then okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's
I agree with that.
And that is an appropriate thing to address.
Well, when you talk about cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do, because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me, because when they went with the Russia hoax and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and,
he
said,
could have. That's true.
He was very threatening.
That gives Zelensky a lot of crap.
It was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are lunatics. I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside.
Oh,
in many
I know
cases,
what you're talking
the
about.
people from within are more dangerous
for what it's worth. My wife was always
than the Russians and the Chinas.
What the hell?
If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to make.
She's not a huge.
You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now they've taken advantage of
absolutely.
us incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to inhibit their freedom of speech.
Right.
And I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it, like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't, because she's not smart. She's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, "Where am I? Where am I going?" So anyway, but no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that we can have a conversation, and I'm able to get it out without, because I get treated unfairly.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like it's not possible.
That's
this is like talking to an NPC. No. So it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all these. I got along with Kim Jong-un. We had
Would
dinner.
She show up?
We had everything, and he really liked
she
me.
hasn't even talked to the press at all.
Really well. By the way, he's He's the absolute boss over there. You know, a lot
Well,
of
yeah,
people
maybe
said,
they
"Oh, do you
wouldn't.
think he really?"
I don't know.
That's for
Let me
sure.
tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But you know, in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it. But I guess you are. You should be allowed to say it if it's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, you know Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is, the whole concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look, she didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman. So we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah, well, maybe like I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the future is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach new heights that make you proud to be an American and excited about the future.
They want the American dream back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. The Biden thing is very interesting.
Like,
people just found him to be
she's
incompetent.
always laughing.
And when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?"
Sheer stupidity.
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are like some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think like we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We could build high-speed connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. It's possible to solve traffic with tunnels.
Feel free to join. I go live most nights at 7 p.m. Central Time.
That. And and just do things that are exciting and inspiring and make the future feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. It's deep. You don't even need much structure, assuming you're in the right area.
No, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
So like I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high-speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with deregulation with an ability to actually where it's like legal to actually do the tunnels. Then you could have high-speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high-speed transport between cities.
The biggest,
and that would be something that Americans can say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an American.
And much safer than surface trains, where there is a danger there. With crazy people, it's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating, and I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains they call them, I guess. And they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close.
No.
And it doesn't make sense that we don't. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also like there's, I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that I think people can generally understand is that what happens with laws and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies.
Very true.
I mean, if you take the sort of like I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's lives. And
I worked very hard on that. We got that down to the lowest number ever, and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And You know, it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really pretty amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I
Yeah.
got some things done very quickly. But it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. Just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and it's you end up in the same with the approval, but it's just it takes years instead of something that I think could potentially take months, and that improves people's lives. And I think I just wanted to hop on this point that like there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year, and you get like hardening of the arteries, and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever, and then we just ossify as a society. We can't make any progress, and it's a really big deal.
Well, Elon, just getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in, and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. But people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved where you can, you basically, look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability. The country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody's terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list if somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative. Okay. And as you know, we got it done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58 years. And it sounds simple, but it wasn't, because, the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done. Somebody you signed a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done, and we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. Hopefully you never need it, but if you do, you don't have to travel to Asia. People, if they had money, they go to Asia, they go to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happened. They'd go home and die.
Well, I mean, and actually, to give Europe some props here, it's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S. I mean, they get more regulations than we do.
They do.
Why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would work. It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely.
You're right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like you make your own decision. That makes sense.
Well, I think just in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get nervous, because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many? What is the number? Wow. What is it?
Well,
wow.
I think in terms of people,
that's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. Wow. And I guess over a period of time. Hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
Well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days to weeks, it's going to be hundreds.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an honor.
I agree with that.
I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it, and they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the
Yeah.
colleges over, I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant
yeah.
crime. Maybe I'll call it
Well,
Kamala migrant crime. But
you know, I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And, you know, my mom lives in New York, and I was like, you know, Mom, you know, do you know, have you, any of your friends, you know, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, 3 of her friends in 3 separate
Crazy.
incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets in New York. And I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like,
Mhm.
and they just know
they
that
always get away.
nothing's going to, and they don't even bother reporting it because they know that they're not going to, you know, people are not going to get prosecuted. They just let, you know, violent criminals out in New York.
The
with-
only
with
one that
zero
gets
bail.
prosecuted is Donald Trump. They prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean, it's just obviously messed up.
Oh, it's terrible.
If violent criminals are being getting off scot free, and meanwhile the you know, New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like, what's this, you know, and I think the sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the heck's going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system. You know, the legal system is supposed to be protecting the public
right.
from violent criminals. And it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decision about who should be president, as opposed to, you know, some you know, legal case.
Once they
Right.
start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of, you know, going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent, and
Yeah.
and then you get a judge who's, you know, a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell.
Mhm.
But you get a judge, and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote, and you know you'll have a jury pool
Yeah.
with people that hate Republicans or hate. It could
Sure.
also be the other way, though,
Of course.
because it could start the other way in areas where they hate
Exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a
Yep.
Pandora's box. It's a very dangerous thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is
Yep,
losing. New York
absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business
Yeah.
over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system.
Yep.
You have an unfair system of
Yes.
justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are
Yeah.
leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So, you know, all of that stuff is important. But the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of
Yeah, I think
inflation.
there's a lot of opportunity.
Right.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So
And I just want to, I want to
think,
congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. You know, we can talk, you and I can talk
True.
about rockets.
well, it's kind of you to say. Thank
Well,
you.
tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things. And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty, I'll say. So
Yeah.
it's an amazing thing you've done, Elon. It's an amazing thing, and I
Well,
congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And well, I mean, I just say here, you know, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And, you know, we have a phrase, make America great again. It's pretty simple, but it really says that we want to make America great again. And we can do it. We can do it now. But if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years, I'm not sure the country can ever come back.
No.
That's how bad it
No,
is.
it
It's so
couldn't.
bad. We have to do a lot of
I think
things.
that's a very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big risk.
It's a very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been. I'm not like, since they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd, because I'm like making electric vehicles and, you know, solar and batteries helping
True.
with the environment, and I actually I
Remember,
you know,
he was a media darling not
supported
that long
Obama.
ago.
I stood in line
Yep.
for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and
Mhm.
you know, so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I'd call myself, you know, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, and I think a lot of people thought, the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not. And obviously, we were just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. She was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. That's
Yes,
you can Google it.
yes.
I mean, it's not a. We're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So, and we want to have a future that is prosperous. And I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is kind of at a fork in the road, and
True.
And I think it will take the path, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself. But I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left, and so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you, and I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's even more of an honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it, but when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America.
It was.
Now it's almost not livable there. And California likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone cold killers in many cases and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take them out.
Yeah. I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities. We want secure borders. We want sensible government spending. We want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the judicial system. Just stop the lawfare, and I think that's like. And how are those even right-wing positions? I think those are that's just common sense, and that's. I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand, the whole, they call it progressive. They don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it liberal or progressive. I don't understand how somebody could say that it's okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you, their crime rates all over the world are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country. Okay, so we'll go. You and I will go and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela because that's what's happening. Their crime rates coming down and our crime rates going through the roof, and it's so simple. And you haven't seen anything yet because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated, and they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police. We have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal and then the DA doesn't prosecute and just let the guy out. Well, then why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse, Elon,
nothing's going to happen.
Even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer and they take away his pension. They take away his job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when there was that case where sort of a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times
Yep.
Square in New York, and and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how. I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? What that? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything. We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things, but I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand-up fighting a police officer. There were two of them, and
Yeah.
yet about six
Yeah,
of these
yeah.
guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country,
Yeah.
if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness, and it's such a sad.
Yeah,
it's such a sad thing to see, and that's the reason you have crime, by the way,
yeah.
because we don't do anything about
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean,
Right.
and they're let out. This is unacceptable.
Well, we're going to change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. When I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept it. And you know what happened? They all called me, every one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got them back. We took in so many. The MS-13 is probably the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for Obama. They wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take him back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either, not just illegals. So you can't have violent, repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously, by definition, continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer deep empathy. You got to say, like, what if you don't incarcerate this person? Who are they going to hurt? Who are they might kill someone. They might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for criminals.
Right. And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all It's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime.
Mhm.
And it's going to get more
It's
violent
insane.
because these are really,
Oh, yeah.
really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to where, because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people, and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, you know, I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight.
Yeah.
And I didn't need this. I'm like you. I didn't need this. I had a very nice life. I didn't need to go through court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the same time. I have to run.
Very true.
I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. But I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're going to stop crime.
Like, the facts speak for themselves.
It's so incredible.
Speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of cities because they know nothing is going to happen. That's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So it's just my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about, and that's the future I'm looking for. And I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now, and but I do think we want to move a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think and so I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president.
Well, I appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the American dream in the truest sense. But you don't hear about the American dream anymore. And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out and do it. And they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all where they have no money, where they literally have no money. And then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do some great things. And I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military, we did so much. But I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things, the people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington, D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. To me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election, and I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if
Yeah.
we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear
This
you
was
got
interesting.
but I hope
Sure.
you got.
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of that, as far as I can tell. So, what did you think? Was it the standard talking points like most people kind of expected, or did it show a more human side of him? Like I put up on the screen, tomorrow night we have the regional organizing director for Institute for Quality Education. I didn't want to interrupt, but I did want to make sure that you guys were able to see that, because Taki is a very interesting guy. I met him, and he's going to be on the show to talk about like what this organization does, how are they involved in education here, especially in the state of Indiana, which I live in, and what options are out there for students. How do you learn? One of the nice things about Indiana is it has robust protections and laws for homeschooling. But that's it. This has been really long, so I'm going to let you guys go and have a great evening. And I hope you'll join us again. If those of you who are not subscribers, I hope you'll check us out again. If you like what you see, click the little thumbs up, please. And I hate asking, but my wife's been on me because it really, really, really does help the channel a lot. So click the little like, subscribe, all that. Without further ado, God bless you, God bless Indiana, and God bless the United States of America. I hope to see you all again very, very soon. Have a great evening. Good night.